Today we're diving into the realm of the forbidden, where curiosity leads to danger and the unknown costs more than anyone could ever expect. Get ready for 3 spine-chilling stories about places you simply cannot go, but that didn't stop some from doing it anyway. But before we jump into these eerie tales, if you're a fan of the strange, the dark, and the mysterious, delivered in a gripping narrative style, you've come to the right place. We upload every week, so if you're hooked, go ahead and smash that like button. But wait, don't tell anyone you've secretly removed 2 of the puzzle pieces. Also, don't forget to subscribe and turn on all notifications so you never miss one of our thrilling episodes. Let's get started. It was 9:30 p.m. on June 15th, 2011, when Sarah Evans, a 25-year-old freelance journalist from Oregon, found herself standing at the base of the infamous Mount Shasta. Known for its majestic beauty, this dormant volcano had been a destination for hikers and adventurers for decades. But that night, Sarah wasn't just there for a scenic view, she was chasing a story that had been whispered about for years. There were rumors that something otherworldly lurked near the summit, that hikers had mysteriously disappeared without a trace, their bodies never found. Most dismissed it as superstition, but Sarah, driven by curiosity and the promise of a unique article, was determined to uncover the truth. Ignoring the warnings from local park rangers about staying on designated trails, Sarah ventured off the beaten path, confident that her experience as a hiker would keep her safe. Armed with only her flashlight and a few snacks, she made her way up the steep, rocky terrain, her heart pounding in her chest with both excitement and fear. But as the hours passed, Sarah noticed something strange. The landscape had become eerily quiet. The usual sounds of wildlife were absent, replaced by an unsettling stillness that seemed to consume the air itself. It was then that she noticed the first signs that something was terribly wrong. She began seeing strange, burnt markings etched into the rocks. They were symbols, intricate and foreboding, like something out of an ancient ritual. As Sarah continued to climb, the temperature dropped suddenly, and her breath began to come out in visible puffs. She reached a narrow pass, the rocks closing in on her, and that's when she heard it. A low, rumbling growl from somewhere above her. Confused and terrified, Sarah spun around to see nothing but shadows. But the growl persisted, getting louder and more menacing. She tried to move, but her legs felt like lead, as if the mountain itself were pulling her down. Then, before she could react, the ground beneath her gave way. She fell, tumbling down the rocky slope, screaming for help, but there was no one around. When she regained consciousness hours later, her flashlight had shattered, and all she could see was the pitch-black darkness surrounding her. Her body was bruised and battered, but miraculously, she was still alive. But something had changed. She couldn't explain it. The mountain was no longer just a mountain, it was alive, and it was watching her. Desperate, Sarah scrambled to find her way back, but no matter which direction she turned, she only found more of those strange markings, and the growl seemed to follow her, now too close to ignore. Eventually, Sarah stumbled across a trail. As she made her way down, she could hear the wind howling through the trees, as though they were whispering a warning. But she didn't listen, not until she made it back to the base of the mountain, panting and terrified. But when Sarah returned to the park ranger station to report her experience, the rangers stared at her, wide-eyed and pale. "You should have never gone up there," they said. "You're lucky to be alive." Sarah thought they were just trying to scare her, but then they shared a chilling piece of information. No one ever goes up there alone. If they do, they're never seen again. Despite her harrowing escape, Sarah would never be able to shake the feeling that something, or someone, had been watching her from the shadows. To this day, no one knows what's truly hidden in the depths of Mount Shasta, and some say it's better that way. Now, let's turn to a different story, one that takes us to a place where the boundary between life and death is far too thin. On the evening of October 14th, 2015, Jack Morrison, a 32-year-old urban explorer from Chicago, set out on what he thought would be another typical night of exploring abandoned buildings. Jack had made a name for himself on social media, posting stunning photos of forgotten places, often those considered off-limits by local authorities. But there was one location that had always intrigued him: the old abandoned asylum on the outskirts of town. The stories surrounding the asylum were chilling. It had been shut down in the 1980s, its walls housing the lost souls of patients who had been subjected to inhumane treatment. Some whispered that the asylum was cursed, and many who ventured inside claimed to have heard voices and seen strange shadows lurking in the corners. Jack, however, was undeterred by these rumors. Armed with his camera and a sense of invincibility, he made his way through the overgrown grounds and into the decaying structure. As he stepped inside, the stale air hit him immediately, heavy with the scent of mildew and neglect. He pulled out his flashlight and began exploring the dark hallways, his footsteps echoing off the cracked tiles. It was all so eerie, but Jack had seen much worse: abandoned hospitals, old factories, but this place felt different. There was an energy here, something palpable, almost suffocating. He walked deeper into the building, snapping photos of the peeling walls and rusted equipment. Then, as he rounded a corner, he came across a door that seemed out of place, newer than the others, as though it had been recently sealed. On a whim, Jack decided to open it. What he found on the other side was not what he expected. Inside was a small room, dark and cold, and in the center of it there was a single iron chair. What caught Jack's attention were the straps on the arms and legs of the chair, still stained with something dark and dried. Jack's curiosity got the better of him, and he decided to investigate further. As he walked closer, his flashlight flickered, casting long shadows across the room. Then the air grew cold, unnaturally cold, and he heard a whisper, faint but unmistakable. "Get out." At first he thought it was his imagination, but then it came again, clearer this time. "Get out." Frozen in place, Jack turned toward the doorway, but it was too late. The door slammed shut, trapping him inside the room. He pounded on the door, but it wouldn't budge. The whispers grew louder, now a chorus of voices, all pleading with him to leave. In a blind panic, Jack scrambled to the chair, trying to find an escape. But as his hand brushed against the straps, he felt a cold hand grip his wrist. He looked down. There was no one there. But that wasn't the worst part. The worst part was the reflection in the broken mirror across from him, standing behind him, just out of sight, was the figure of a man, pale and twisted, his eyes hollow and filled with rage. Jack screamed, but no sound escaped his mouth. His heart raced as he struggled to free himself from the unseen grip. But the more he fought, the tighter the grip became. Eventually the building was searched, but Jack was never found. The only clue left behind was his camera sitting on the ground in the room with the iron chair. The photos on the camera were distorted, blurry, and some even appeared to show the figure that Jack had seen in the mirror. Our final story takes us across the world to a remote island in the Pacific Ocean, one that no one is supposed to visit. This island, known as North Sentinel Island, is home to the Sentinelese people, a tribe that has lived in isolation for thousands of years, cut off from the outside world. In November 2018, a young missionary named John Allen Chow made the fateful decision to visit the island, believing it was his calling to bring Christianity to the tribe. Despite knowing the dangers of approaching the island, where any outsider is met with hostility, John hired a local fisherman to take him as close as possible to the shore. Armed only with a Bible and his faith, he paddled in a canoe toward the island. As he neared the beach, he was spotted by the Sentinelese. They immediately began launching arrows at him, but John was undeterred. He continued to approach, calling out to them in a language they couldn't understand. But the arrows came faster, and within moments John was struck. His body was later recovered by the fisherman, and the news of his death spread around the world. John Chow's story serves as a stark reminder that some places are meant to remain untouched, that some mysteries are better left unsolved.